Shalom Aleichem, everyone. It's a schos and a pleasure to be able to speak to B'nai Torah and B'nai Aliyah of Los Angeles. We all need Chizuk, and Be'ez Hashem, we should get Chizuk together tonight. Yetz Hashem. The Ramah brings down the famous minhag that the Mariel says by Leil Seder, that a person, when they say over the Makais, by the Haggadah, we're supposed to put our finger into the cup of wine and take out a drop of wine with each and every single one of the makas that we say. And the poskim go through to understand why exactly this many makas, why this many numbers, which finger we should use, what's the right way to do it, what's the reason that we do it. But they don't explain so much what is the message that Chazal had in mind over here, that the Chachamim had in mind when they said over that we should remove some of the wine from the kais, from the cup that we have. What are we trying to say? What is the message we're trying to give over to ourselves while we're doing that? Such an odd thing to remove something from the cup of wine at this point in the Haggadah. Comes along the altar of Slabodka and he says over the following idea. He says that at that moment, when we are recalling and recounting all the makas that befell the Mitzrim, and we think to ourselves all the nisim and niflais that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made for us, and that he destroyed Mitzrayim in one full sweep with one makkah after the other. And we look and we see the total destruction of that nation. So he writes the words that we're actually mishtatfim b'tsaram shel elu. We're actually connecting to the tsar, to the pain that the Mitzrim, that the Egyptians themselves had by having to go through all of the makkahs. Shekiblas hamakkahs, they had to receive and go through everything that they did. And he goes on to explain that we find a similar idea that when Klal Yisrael was going through the Yam Suf, when there was the splitting of the sea, we know that they came out on the other end and they began singing Shiras Hayam, they began singing the great song of the sea, praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all the miracles that Hashem made. And at that moment, the Malachi Ashares, the angels that were there in Shemayim in the heavens, they got so excited. There was such an elation and a joy that they saw the victory of Klal Yisrael and the destruction of the Egyptians. They also began singing out of simcha over the tremendous thing that just took place. And the Gemara Megillah tells us the following. HaKadosh Baruch Hu got a little bit upset with the Malachim, with the angels, and he told them to silence themselves. And he said over the following words, my creations are drowning in the sea. And you're going to sing a song right now. How can you sing a song when I, the Rebbeinu Shalom, had no choice but to drown an entire nation of people, which means that their existence is now wiped off the face of the earth. Which means HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us the following, that although there is good and there is evil in this world, and there will be tzaddikim that will prevail, and there will be rishoyim that will be punished, but the tachlis habriya, the purpose of this creation, was not that there should be rishoyim that are going to be wicked in their ways, and that they're going to do horrible things, and they're going to destroy our nation, our people. Rather, the tachlis habriya is that every single person came into this world with one goal, and that is to be a boicher b'toiv, to use their free will and make decisions that are going to elevate themselves, that will elevate the world around them, that will elevate their nation as well. And the person should use their bechira, they should make decisions that will be the voice of their neshama that is ringing clear in this world and telling them choose good and don't choose bad. Cling to righteousness and avoid rishus, avoid wickedness. Find compassion and don't be cruel. You should be giving and you shouldn't be stingy. You should be a person of kedusha, of holiness, and not a person, chalila, of tumah, of impurity. When the Mitzrim stood up to the plate over here, and they decided to take upon themselves the position of being the tormentors of Klal Yisrael, and they decided that they're going to go into the wickedness of their ways, which was filled with black magic and impurities and idol worship. It was filled with rishus, with wickedness and cruelty, all the things that they did. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what a pain, what an anguish it is for me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that I created an entire nation that I wanted them to be a boicher b'toiv, to make decisions that would be good and would be positive and would be uplifting for themselves, and they chose the wrong path in life. And as a result, I have no choice but to drown them in the sea. And therefore, Malachi Asharis, how can you sing right now? Do you know the pain that I, the Shekhinah, am in? Can you understand what it means for a father to have to drown his own children? Could you understand what it means to see me decimate a nation that could have been a world power, a leader amongst men? But instead they became the enemies of the Am HaNivchar, of the chosen people, and they did such wicked things, filled with cruelty and rishus and wickedness. I have no choice. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please don't sing right now. Because I, the Shekhinah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's agmas nefesh, it's sar, it's pain for me. And that's why we remove the wine at this time. Because we are not only recognizing that the Egyptians themselves had to take upon the Makkahs all the plagues, that they were incomplete, but we are being mishtatef with the tsar of the Shekhinah, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he has people in this world that do not fulfill their purpose, that do not live up to what they were created for, that don't understand the tachlis achaim, the purpose of life, and Hashem has no choice but to destroy them. And therefore we feel the pain of the Ribbono Shel Olam. Which means the following for us. If the greatest tsar and the greatest anguish to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is when people misuse the gift of Bechira, of free will, that Hashem has given us, it must mean that perhaps one of the greatest elements of nachas that the Ribbono Shel Olam derives from us is when a person is a boicher b'toiv, when they make positive and good decisions in their life, when they decide to elevate the loftiness of their neshama in this world, when they look around them and they see between the darkness and the light and they choose light over darkness. When a person, as the Rambam writes, that the Tselem Elokim, the godliness of a person, is the way in which they utilize their bechira, their free will. Just as HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a boicher, he makes decisions, and of course he always makes the right decisions. He entrusted in the hands of man the ability as well to make the right decisions in our lives. And when we do that, we also are expressing our godliness, the kedusha that resonates inside each and every one of our neshamas. In the Sefer Oznaim L'Torah by Rav Zalman Sorotzkin, he asked the following question. He's going over here in Parshas Nitzavim. He's talking about the psukim of Bechira, of free will. Hachayim v'hamavis nasati lefanecha. I placed life and death in front of you. Ubecharta b'chaim, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you choose life. It's all in your hands. You make the right decision. He writes the following idea. He says, is it possible for a person in this world to actually have a fair shot at Bechira? Bechira, free will, means that there's a choice. A choice means that you must be in some kind of neutral ground where you see on one hand the good, on the other side you see the bad, and you find within inside of yourself the strength to choose right over wrong, good over bad, kedusha over tuma. You have to find that. And that would be what we would call free will, if there is actually a choice that is in front of me. But he says in reality, our bechira is handicapped when it comes to this world. Why? He says, because think about the creation of man. We have a neshama, yes, Baruch Hashem, a beautiful neshama that's a chelik elokah mimal, it's a piece of the Ribbono Shel Olam. But it comes into this world, into a goof, into a body. And this body has yetzaharas, it has inclinations that are not so good. And there's taivas, there are desires in this world that are pulling us in all different directions. And the world that we are part of is a physical world. It's chaymer, it's earthy. And there are so many distractions, and there are so many things that are pulling us in one direction or another away from the true desires of our neshama. What could the neshama, what could the Yetzar Tov, the positive, good inclinations that a person has, what could it possibly offer to the mind of a person that's going to make it realize that with the onslaught of the Yetzer Hara and the onslaught of the body and the onslaught of this world that is so tantalizing and so luring and so pleasureful that the world offers, what could we possibly offer to the neshama that's going to give it a chance of making the truly right decision of bechira? And therefore he writes, we're not really using free will. Free will is when you have a fair choice in front of you. But if you think about it clearly, you'll recognize and you'll see that it's actually not a fair choice. There's so much more of the negative, of the other side, of the ra, of the bad that is there than the good. It's almost like we are destined to make the wrong decisions in life. However, says the Aznaim L'Torah the following: Mishenas Torah Yisrael, from the time that the Torah was given over to Klal Yisrael, Harayesh Oizer Gam L'Neshama Ba'aretz, there's also help to the neshama down here in this physical world. Ki al yedei limud Torah, because a person sits and they learn and they engage themselves in the study of Torah, it's as if they're able to bring into this world as hashchina lamata. They could bring the Shechina, the divine presence, down here into their lives. Ulechamim es haneshama ba'or Hashem, and they can warm up their neshama with the light of the Ribbono Shel Olam. In such a strong and powerful way that they will be able to stand up against the battles that we are fighting in this Olam HaChomer, in this physical world. And then he writes, because the Torah is the only thing that's going to give this to us. And he says, Mekivan shu oisik b'Torah, a person engages in the study of Torah, Nishmasai mischazekes, his neshama is strengthened. What is going to give a person's neshama the strength to stand up in a world where it's almost impossible to see the light, where it's so difficult to be in a neutral ground? Torah is mechazek the neshama, it strengthens our souls. Neshama is just like this. The Ramchal also speaks about in Derech Hashem. There's a world of neshamas before we come down into this world that was tachas kisei covered underneath the throne of glory, and the neshama that's up there, it's so strong, and it's so powerful, and so mighty and pure that it sees the emes. When a person is down here in this world, and they learn, and they steig, and they engage, and they try harder and harder and harder, it's machazik, the neshama, it strengthens your soul. You have the eyes now to see, to be able to make the decisions that are b'charta b'chaim, that are actually allowing you to choose right over wrong, life over death, blessing over curse, kedusha, holiness over tomb over impurity. To be able to bring yourself to what is the tachlis hachaim, which is the ultimate gift of why we're here, to try to achieve something that will be a nachas in the eyes of the Ribbono Shel Olam. As we are finding ourselves right now in the coming to the closing days of Pesach, which is already part of Sfiras HaOmer, and we're working closer and closer, getting towards Shavuos, towards Matan Torah Haseinu, the great day when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah. Our job, our avodah during this time is we're trying to cling and to get closer and to become stronger in our limud and our learning of Torah, stronger in our understanding of the Torah, stronger and deeper in our connection to the Torah. Because when a person does that, they are mechazik the neshama. They strengthen the neshama, and then we have a chance of being someone that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you were a b'charta b'chaim, you chose life. You were sitting in quarantine for months on end, and you could have been sitting on your phone all day long watching WhatsApp videos. You were sitting in quarantine on end, and you could have slept till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You were sitting in quarantine, and you could have done who knows what in all these months, and yet you engaged your neshama in the greatest spiritual exercise in the world, which is limud HaTorah, and you brought clarity to your life, and you know now what it means to be a Yid, to be a Jew. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's my nachas. My nachas is that in a world that has been turned upside down, and families that pashit don't know what to do with themselves so many weeks on end, inside, behind locked doors, trying to figure out how to spend our time wisely. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks inside of our homes and he sees people that are cleaving to his ways, that are trying their best to learn Torah every single day, whether it's ba'amkus, whether it's in depth, whether it's bekiyas, whether it's a little bit more superficial, whether it's something that you learned before, something that's brand new, mashali b'chafetz, whatever it is that you desire, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's what's going to elevate your soul. And as he writes over here, you will actually bring the Shechina lamata, you will bring the Shechina down into your life. And when a person does that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to his Malachi Yesharis, now take a look at that nation. Not a nation that I have to drown, chas v'chalila, in the seas. Not a nation that I have to disregard, chas v'chalila, but rather a nation of Ovdei Hashem, of people that are serving me, even in the most difficult of times. And they're bringing me down into their lives. Personally, for their families, for their communities, for all of Klal Yisrael and the entire Bria, like the Ramchal writes, a person does good, he is mis'ale, hu mis'ale, mis'ale, kol ha'olam kulai. He elevates the entire world together with him. We can be responsible for elevating the entire world together with us out of the mess that we are finding ourselves in right now. But that's up to us. If we use the days of Sfiras HaOmer wisely, and we use it as a way to connect ourselves with the greatest gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to any nation, Ki lekach toiv nasati lochem, I've given you this gift, al ta'azavu, don't leave it, please, says Hashem. Cling to it, learn it, embrace it, love it, be enthusiastic about it, make it part of your life, because this is what life is really all about. Share it with your spouse, share it with your children, share it on the telephone like we're doing tonight. Whatever you can do to make the Torah something that is meyuchad, that is special for Klal Yisrael. And then says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, oh, here's a nation that's fulfilling tachlis achaim, that's fulfilling the purpose of why they came to the world. I have no greater nachas than when I can see my nation, Klal Yisrael, under such difficult circumstances that are going throughout the entire world, and they're doing their best to bring the Shechina lamata, to warm up their neshamas with the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to be mechazik their neshamas, to strengthen their souls, so that now they will have the eyes to see how to make the right decisions in life and do what is deemed appropriate in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want to leave you off with a fascinating Maisa that I just saw recently. The new book that was put out about Rebbe's in Jungreis. And that brings down in there that when she was going on her first official Kiruv campaign, she knew that there's no way she's going to be Matzliach unless she goes and she gets the brachas of Gedolei Yisrael. She needs their support, that they're going to approve of what she's doing. So she was living in New York, and she went to several of the Gedolei Yisrael, amongst them Rav Moshe Feinstein, who gave her a very warm bracha and encouragement, and also the Rav Yosef Henkin, who was at that time the eldest of all the Gedolim in America, one of the greatest poskim of the generation. And her father, Rabbi Avram, who was very, very close to him, took her in to go and get a bracha from Yosef Henkin. Now her father warned her that when they got there, she shouldn't be alarmed. Rav Henkin was very old at the time. He was coming towards the end of his life, and he'd been very ill. He wasn't walking so well, and he'd really lost his eyesight. He was completely blind. He couldn't really see. So he told her, don't be alarmed when you see him. He's not well. He comes shuffling into the room, very hard for him to walk. He sits down at the table, his face is pale, and Rebbetzin Jungreis' father introduces her, and he says that my daughter, Rebbetzin Esther, is about to go and try to bring the shamas of Klal Yisrael back to Avinu Shebashamayim, to their Father in heaven. And suddenly his face, which was so pale, and emotionless, gets a very big smile on his face. And he tells her that any endeavor that you take, l'shem shamayim, you undertake it for the sake of Hashem, certainly you're going to succeed. And then he looks at her, so to speak, and he says, Rebbitzin, I want you to do me a favor. When you go to this gathering, and you speak to all of these neshamas that are inside of them, craving to find out what it means to be a Jew, I want you to share one message with them. I want you to tell them what you saw here today. Tell them that you met an old rabbi who's blind and he can't see anymore what he's learning. And I want you to tell him that his eyes are no longer able to see, and all that they are tzvei, shtik, flesh. They're just two pieces of flesh right now. Tell them my body doesn't function anymore. And tell them that whatever knowledge I have, I only was able to acquire it from the days when I was able to see. And Rebbitzin, he told, I want you to remind them that years and days will pass very quickly. And one day, every person is going to find themselves in a similar situation. They're going to be in a situation where the body simply disintegrates. And I'm begging you to share this message with them. You should tell them that while they're young, and they're healthy, and they have the energy, and they have the tools to learn HaKadosh Baruch Hu's wisdom, they should spend their time and their energy wisely to be able to learn Hashem's Torah. And then he concluded the following words. And he says, I give you a bracha. You should be able to teach the Jewish people that they should have rachmanis. They should have compassion on their neshamas, on their souls. He says, we live in a world today where people are always thinking about their health. They're obsessed with being healthy. They work on their bodies, they exercise, they watch their diets. Except one day, after 120 years, we're all going to stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu in judgment. And there's not going to be a body at that time. The only thing standing before Hashem is going to be the neshama. And is our neshama going to be able to stand before Hashem without a body? Will it have all the spiritual muscle that it needs? And he says, go and teach the Jewish people that while they're here on this earth, they should use their years to strengthen their neshamas with the proper diet of Torah and of mitzvahs, so that one day when we all stand before the Rebbe, before the Almighty, we will be a pride, and we'll have dignity, and we'll be a nachas to the Rebbe Shalom. We, Baruch Hashem, have the schus that we live in the Olam HaTorah, we live in the world of Torah. We have Rebbeim, we have Rabbanim, we have Svarim, we have parents to guide us, we have elder brothers and sisters to guide us, to keep us on the right derech. How many Yidden there are in the world today that Rahman al-Zan are suffering as we speak from this coronavirus. They wish they could open up a sefer. They wish they could daven out of a siddur. They wish they could stand for a Shemon Esrei. They could listen to a shir. They could learn one Rashi on the Chumash. They wish that they could. And we that are listening, we are zeicha that we can. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants more now than ever, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, that we should take the koichos that Hashem has given us, the abilities that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us, the chachma that Hashem has given us, and we should put our energies into learning the Torah, to embracing the Torah, to living a life of Torah, because that itself is lachame mesad nishmasai. It warms up our neshamas. It brings the Shechina Lamata down to this world, and it gives us the eyes to see how to live our lives as a Jew. That we will be proud to be able to know that during these times in history, we were a nation that was zeicha to bring nachas to Hashem, because we were becharta, b'chaim, we chose life, which is the greatest gift of all. May we be zeicha im Yetz Hashem, all of us. Those who need refuah shleima should have refuah shleimas. Those who need nechama, Kodesh Baruch Hu should have nechama, and we should have nechama and rachmanis on our neshamas. And we should learn Torah, embrace the Torah, imbibe the Torah, and love our Kodesh Baruch Hu's Torah, because that itself is the way that we are going to give Hashem the most nachas in the world.
Thank you very much for the
Oh, good, my pleasure. Kol tevatzlacha.